watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
So, lots of papers to look through today, and leading on various different things, actually. So, joining us to review the papers this morning, anthropologist Mary Anna Hota and political editor of the UK Huffington Post, Kevin Schofield. Morning. Right, Mary Ann, the royal bombshell. Now, the Daily Mail's leading on this, plus one other paper, I think.
The Sunday Times.
And we were wondering, is this a story? Is this a non-story? What's going on? So, can you explain it?
It's a good question. So, big headline, Charles took €1 million in a suitcase. So, literally cash.
Cash in a suitcase.
In a suitcase. And then quickly handed it on to an advisor.
Yes.
It was then banked and fully disclosed to the charity for which it was a donation for.
So who gave him the suitcase full of money?
So the suitcase full of money came from Sheikh Hamad bin Yassin, who is a Qatari sheikh, who is a controversial figure because of other big donations, because of the extent of his wealth. So, for example, he was one of the kind of key figures in a Qatari buyout of big London landmarks like the Shard, the Olympic Village, they own a lot of. And so there's this kind of question of, like, what is the money getting you? And there's the suggestion that this is influence, this is some kind of political favours. Obviously, this is on the back of last year. The prince's, one of the execs of one of the prince's charities having to stand down, and is currently being investigated by both the Met Police and the Charities Commission for basically writing a letter to a donor saying, of course, in light of your very generous donation, we'll make sure that, we put in a good word for you in terms of the Queen's Honours List, we'll put in a good word for you in terms of citizenship.
It matters, doesn't it, what the motive was. And when Prince Charles actually accepted the suitcase of cash, those are the two front pages that we could just see there. When Prince Charles accepted a suitcase full of cash, was he doing it on behalf of a charity and saying, thank you very much, the charity thanks you? Or was he just accepting it and then deciding to give it to a charity?
It was, I think the suggestion, and I don't believe the Mail on Sunday is suggesting anything otherwise, it was intentionally and explicitly a donation for the charity.
So is there anything more than that?
The royals have a very clear policy that no money ought to be accepted on behalf of charities. No cash ought to be accepted on behalf of charities. So you can accept a cheque, but not a bag of or suitcase full of cash.
So if you'd been given a cheque, it wouldn't be a story?
No, because cheques are inherently more traceable than banknotes. But that said, no one is suggesting any of the money has gone missing. No one is suggesting that any of the money is illegal. It's not being laundered. It's
just the fact that it's
it
icky
just seems
because
a bit
it's
icky
cash.
because it was a bag of cash and that.
It was one of three as well. He's had another two, so it's €3 million in total. This one was in a suitcase. There's another one was in a Fortnum and Mason bag.
Why can't I meet these people?
It's weird. I mean, have they not got electronic banking? It's like,
But I
why
suppose-
isn't even cash?
Don't you think if you are a Qatari sheikh worth that much money, it's almost back pocket money, isn't it?
It's like putting a tenner in the collection fund outside Asda. Maybe. Yeah, I guess. So it's kind of funny. I mean, I do wonder whether the Mail on Sunday had some other scoop, or they were hoping that this story was going to actually be a bit secretly a bit more interesting. And, oh God, we can't really say that much because it's icky, but it's not illegal.
And if he handed it straight to an aid and it had been accepted for a charity,
But the Prince's charity is for his own charity.
It is, but charities operate as their own entities.
Yeah.
So even though it's his charity, again, the charity would declare any large donations. There's no, they have anonymous donor policies. He's not anonymous.
It's just not a great look, is it, for the heir to the throne to be receiving big bundles of
No,
cash?
the optics, but she's done nothing wrong.
No.
I just find it odd making a fuss about it. If it had been a cheque, we wouldn't even be talking about it this morning. But because it's cash, and I can imagine to a Qatari sheikh, cash is cash. So it's Fortnum and Mason hamper or suitcase.
I just want someone to give me £1 million in a bag.
Yeah, I'd accept a suitcase.
What would you do for it, though? That's the question.
I'd spend a month counting the notes.
That's right, to make sure every one of them was there. Yeah.
It'd be great. Can you imagine? Oh dear, dream on. Kevin, in The Observer, the PM's under pressure. I mean, they're saying that his plans for a third term are delusional. It's a joke, isn't it? I mean, it's been made clear he was joking.
Right. Well, I mean, it's certainly been taken seriously by my colleagues in the lobby. So yeah, it is. It's a classic Boris Johnson throwaway remark. He was asked if he would lead the party into the next election. That's in a couple of years' time. So yeah, a bit of a throwaway remark. Said, "Oh, I'm thinking about the one after that," and so it gives the travelling press pack a headline. But at the same time, it doesn't do him any favours with his backbenchers who are already unhappy, who are already looking for some seriousness from him, like proper, just effective government. And so even though it is a joke, it's only going to serve to get under the skin of people who already want rid of him.
But if he's asked that question, what's the alternative reply? Well, of course I don't really know. I mean, that wouldn't be a good look either.
No, that's true. Well, you could say, yeah, of course I'm going to lead into the next election. He doesn't then have to add on, by the way, I'm going to serve a third term as well, I think it's another Sunday morning headline, isn't it? His advisors would probably say, look,
So
try to tone down the language a little
Why
bit.
shouldn't he come out feeling bullish and confident?
Because they've just lost 2 by-elections.
Well, I know, but...
He's narrowly won a vote of confidence.
Yeah, but if he
And some
acknowledged
people
that
aren't having
publicly...
breakfast this morning because they can't afford it. No, honestly, I mean, that's the reality of it. And he's, dollying about, I was going to use different words then, and being narcissistic and making the story about him.
People seem to like him for that.
Yeah. I think that's changing, right?
The polls would suggest not. Certainly the by-elections.
It reminds me of Margaret Thatcher. Do you remember when the European passports came out?
Yes.
I don't know who the Europe minister was at the time. It's a long time ago. And he had the first passport, and so the number on his passport was 000000001. And someone said, well, if you've got number 1, what's the Prime Minister going to have? And he said, all of her numbers will be 0 because that suggests infinity.
Oh, can you imagine what her backbenchers felt when they heard that?
Yeah, I can't remember who that was now, but I remember watching that as a kid.
Wow.
Thinking that was clever.
That's a great clever line, yeah.
There are red Tories in the Sunday Telegraph, Mary Ann.
Well, yeah, speaking of the Prime Minister and things that he wants us to talk about and things that he might not want us to talk about, one of those things that we might have forgotten, except we haven't, Christopher Geit, the ethics advisor, the Prime Minister's own ethics advisor that he appointed just last year, quit recently because he was put in, quote, an odious position of being asked to give permission for the Prime Minister's plans which would breach international law. So
He was consulted though, wasn't he?
He was consulted. He said, no, you wouldn't be allowed to do that because that would be in breach of international law, breaking international law. And the PM went, well, we're going to do it anyway. So quite understandably, the ethics advisor went, I can't do my job then, I quit. If that's not a cue to suggest that you should probably rethink what it was that you were planning to do. This is a kind of
Yeah, but he needs to win back those red wall seats, doesn't he?
Well, so what his plan is to impose steel tariffs. So that would be for imports of steel from countries outside the UK. Tata Steel, which has bases in the UK, has gone, that's a great idea because we don't want to be flooded by cheaper imports. However...
It's good for jobs.
Possibly, but UK businesses who are reliant on steel that they can afford have said, I mean, is that good? Lots of Conservatives are saying, this is very, very unconservative. This is a protectionist, it's anti-free market, it doesn't bode well because you're kind of basically making up the rules as you go along, breaking international law, once again, breaking international law in order to protect a domestic market. And the thing is, however much people like to kind of wave their flags and kind of, sing Land of Hope and Glory, we are not an island nation that can cope on its own. We are part of a very interconnected global world. Our businesses, our livelihoods are reliant on those international connections and international trade. That was one of the great promises of Brexit.
Yeah.
Kevin, it's very Trumpish.
Yeah, it's a Britain
He did the same thing.
First type of argument, isn't it? So I mean, the politics of it are interesting. Obviously, the line that the Telegraph are going on is that this will help in the Red Wall. I suppose that up to a point, I mean, it'll help if you work in the steel industry or your business relies on British steel, you know what I mean? It'll help you in that regard. The other interesting thing is Labour, it puts them in a tricky spot because they can't really criticise it because they've been calling for this to be continued. So normally they would leap on this saying, oh, the Prime Minister's going to break international law, he's a disgrace, he should resign. But they can't because he's only doing what they've called for him to do in the past as well. So it puts them in a bit of a tricky spot. Whether it'll be enough to win back red wall voters, I'm not sure. I think people are still pretty annoyed about Partygate.
Yeah. Oh well, it's an interesting one.
I think British Steel isn't a big enough industry that it used to be sort of like an icon of heavy industry, of, you know, Britain being a making nation. But I think the conversation has shifted now.
That's it. Maybe we can bring it back to that. You never know. You never know. Let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Mary Ann, Kevin, got to leave it there. Catch up with you a little bit later. You might like to hang about though for this.